Okay, so I'm sure many of you have been there one time or another where you're sitting in class and your eyes start to get like really heavy, you're kind of like swaying and your head drops and then like you pop back up real quick. Well, you probably didn't get enough sleep the night before. And a fun fact, humans are the only mammal that are the only people who willingly put off sleep. And so today I want to tell you why you need to be getting more sleep. So everybody should be getting their recommended amount of hours of sleep per night because it can cause a decrease in your performance, in your alertness, your memory. It can cause occupational and automobile injuries, and it can also cause health problems like obesity. So in a video from the National Sleep Foundation, Dr. Hale states that teenagers from 14 to 17 years old should be getting at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night. And then ages 18 to 64 should be getting 7 to 9 hours, and then seniors should be getting 7 to 8. So it is important to make sure that you're getting enough sleep per night, because if you don't, you can have a decrease in performance, alertness, and in memory. In the article, Sleep Habits More Important Than You Think, Dr. Bruce explains that having an hour and a half less of sleep can already decrease your performance and your alertness by 32%. And then he continues to say that it'll impair your memory. So it's going to be a lot harder for you to just think and just to comprehend what is being said to you in general, just processing information. So I'm sure everyone's had those all-nighters where they're up trying to cram in their last bit of studying, or they're doing something last minute, and you're up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and the next day when you're taking your test, you've definitely had very little sleep, and you're reading your questions that's on your test and you just totally blank, you can't remember what you did the night before, and that's because of you're tired and you didn't get enough sleep. So another reason to get your full recommended amount of sleep is to prevent occupational and automobile injuries. So just think about doctors and their crazy work hours. Those are definitely people you would want to have enough sleep, just because they're diagnosing people. They could be doing surgeries, and if they're not fully there, then it's they can mess up, and that's not something you want happening. Dr. Caruso was saying in an article, Sleep and Work, that the typical tolerable hours would to be having 5 8-hour shifts a week, or 4 10-hour shifts a week. So the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration estimates that each year drowsy driving is responsible for at least 100,000 automobile crashes, and then 71,000 injuries, and 1,550 fatalities. And so I actually have a friend who had stayed up all night. The next day she's running around doing all kinds of things, and she was going to a concert that night, her and her friend. So she was super tired, but she drives anyways, and she ends up actually falling asleep at the wheel and hits the car in front of her. But luckily no one was super injured or anything, and the cars weren't too messed up, so it's she was lucky there. And then being sleep deprived increases your risk for obesity and other health problems. So people who don't get enough sleep are more likely to have bigger appetite due to the fact that their leptin levels have fallen. And leptin is a hormone in your body that regulates your appetite. So when these fall, you're obviously going to be more hungry. And so what happens is like your body needs food to get more energy, to just keep on going with what you have to do like throughout the day. And in an article by Dr. Bruce, a study found that reduced sleep is greatly, can be greatly like is a great mortality risk than smoking or high blood pressure or even heart disease. John Winkelman, a medical director of the Sleep Health Center, says what most people don't realize is that better sleep habits may be instrumental to the success of weight management plans. And then Michael Thorpe, another director of the Sleepwalk Disorder Center, also like says like the same thing. Like if you want to like control your weight or something, getting enough hours of sleep will definitely help, since your levels won't fall down and you won't be super hungry all the time. And then having less sleep also puts you at a higher risk of getting sick because like of your immune system. It's just not working to its full potential. So like in conclusion, everybody should be getting their recommended amount of sleep daily just to improve their performance, alertness, their memory. It'll decrease operational and automobile accidents, and you'll improve your health.
So Lewis, what did you think?
I thought her opener was pretty good. I knew what she was talking about. Enough sleep for the humans. And, you had some good citations with the doctors and everything. You had 2 doctors for one example, which I thought was pretty solid. You had a personal experience with the automobile having an accident. I feel like what you need to work on is that you say like a lot, a little bit. Yeah. And you look at your car just a tad bit too long, a little bit sometimes, but that's from like reading off the doctor's part. It's just a little more practice than that, I guess. But yeah, that's all I got there.
Yeah, I will mention the eye contact thing. I thought you were doing a really good job most of the speech, but there are a couple of spots where you just, it's like you obviously needed to go through that material a couple more times in practice, because it was suddenly, I can't remember what I'm going to say, and I have to read it, and it's obvious when you're reading. It doesn't sound as smooth, and it sounds a little bit more labored. 90% of the time, you're in good shape. But those few times when you have to do that, it does take out a little bit of the credibility. I thought Lewis was right about the material, supporting material. For the most part, you've got a lot of good supporting material in the presentation. The source citations in the later section were fine, but there were a couple of times, Dr. Bruce and Dr. Caruso. I don't know who Dr. Bruce and Dr. Caruso are, so why should I be listening to them? Later on, you do say these people who are associated with some sleep deprivation research or clinic or something, or the weight loss group or something along those lines, then I can kind of understand why I'm listening to them. But otherwise, it just sounds like some random, I talked to my doctor and he said this, and I don't know how true that is. So I know you're giving the citation, but there's probably some authoritative material there that would enhance your credibility if you could get it in the speech. And so I think you need to do that. Organizationally, it's easy to follow but it does sound a little bit like a checklist. You know, here are the 5 things that you got to watch out for of not sleeping, and it might make a great article on BuzzFeed, but it's not always a perfect speech, and some of those things could be grouped together a little bit more. There might be another way of doing it so it doesn't seem so much like it's the list sort of thing. Although I think all of the things that you talked about are important. There's just, I feel like there's got to be a different way that you can organize it so that it would sound more like an argument rather than, like I said, just an inventory. But you had good information on all of the points. And for the most part, I thought it was pretty nicely delivered. I think your exit, you had a good summary, and I thought that worked well at the end of the speech too. All right, thank you.